What is up, everybody? It's your boy Doody back again with another video, and this time we're taking a look at our boy DSP's daily rap video to see if he would address his outburst right before his Zelda playthrough, where he chastised the detractors for ruining yet one more thing that Phil thought was wholesome, nice, and would actually provide him some a good opportunity to expand the DSP gaming brand. And of course, what I'm talking about is apparently a gentleman named Diaphone did a breakdown analysis of Phil's Street Fighter playthrough and provided some criticism, gave him some advice, and the video's out there on his page. And of course, Phil mentioned that on his podcast, and he praised Diaphone for offering criticism the right way, you know, because of course there's a right way to offer criticism, and he praised him for, you know, his lovely words and nice words that he had to say about Phil. So, you know, Phil thought this person was a gentleman. And of course he mentioned it, and what ended up happening was the DSP Vortex decided to go check out that video, and lo and behold, Phil actually left a comment from his DSP React channel, and people decided to let Phil know how they feel about him, since he can't moderate comments on other people's channels. So it was a laugh. So if you guys get a chance, definitely go to Diaphone's channel, check out the video, check out the comment section. It is hilarious. You guys will have a nice time. And of course, Phil had a mental breakdown right before the Zelda playthrough. But of course, he doesn't address it here. What he wants to talk about is he wants to do a 14-minute daily rap where he takes almost 11 minutes to rant and rave about Final Fantasy 16. I mean, nothing like pissing and crapping on a game that you're streaming, and you're streaming because you want people to come and watch it, enjoy it, and give donations. But yet, of course, Phil needs to crap all over it, and then wonders why no one is supporting the playthrough. So let's see what Phil has to say.
How can I say it? Basically, the way this game was working is as follows. Something interesting happens in the plot. Oh, cool. Okay? Then there'll be some gameplay. Oh, this is good. There's some combat. Maybe some new gameplay elements in the combat. Some new enemies. A new dungeon. This is excellent. Then you get some more plot developments. This is great. Then the game decides to slow down to a slogging crawl and literally interjects hours of filler that add absolutely positively nothing whatsoever to the overall arching story, although it seems like the writers really thought that this stuff was important when it's not, causing you to get incredibly bored for extended periods of time. Case in point today, you know, last time around when we played Final Fantasy 16, we had returned to the Phoenix Gate, we had done a whole dungeon, and it was a big major reveal about the main character, Clive. He got a whole bunch of new powers, and you're like, oh, this is excellent. Now the game's going to pick up. No exaggeration. Today, 2 hours of near boredom. There was a few plot elements in there that were interesting, but it was an insane amount of cutscenes. The game opens up and says, oh, you can now go anywhere you want on the map and do side content, except all the side content is literally fetch quests. Every piece of side content. Oh, get some food for this person who's hungry and bring it to them. Your reward? Oh, a guild bug you can go sell somewhere and like 5 experience points. Oh, someone's lost. Go fight a bunch of generic enemies. Okay, you saved them. They went back to town. Oh, here's your reward, a crafting item you don't need. That's all that there is. And people were saying there are meaningful side quests coming up, just not yet. That essentially I'm still in the intro of the game. Just so you guys know, I'm 15 hours into Final Fantasy 16, and I'm still in the intro of the game. Okay? So after about 2 hours of slogging on, very boring dialogue, I mean, it got so bad. Seriously, it got so bad with this meaningless nonsense. Like, okay, this is supposed to be the main plot, but you need to find a girl because you're doing a favor for someone who did a favor for you, and the girl's missing because she was looking for a comb. And the comb is a rare item that apparently was given to her by her leader or the mistress. But by the way, the comb actually isn't valuable. It's just a sentimental value. That's why she wants the comb. So you have to go out and look, and you have the clues for talking to all these people in the town to find out where the girl is. And finally, they kind of allude that she might be out there in the grass or in the farm. So you go look over there, and finally, oh, there's a group of enemies. You got to fight the enemies. When you kill the enemies, oh, the girl is dead. But you can take the comb as a memento that, you know, you found the girl. Then you got to talk to a bunch of townspeople after that. And then you finally go back and you tell the mistress that she's dead. I'm not kidding you. It's like 40 minutes. What did that add to the game? Literally nothing. It has nothing to fucking do with the game. Nothing. Nothing. There's no bearing on the plot. It's just stupid filler. And that's what this game is like. It's like, oh, here's an amazing, tasty part of the plot that's really well done and interesting and big developments and everything. And then slow it down to a crawl for 2 hours and waste your time. You know? I wanted to do some of the side content, and literally everyone said today, don't do it. It's literally all time wasting content. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of world building if you want to know a little bit of extra lore about the plot, but it's really not that important. Instead, you know, if you want to get to the good stuff, keep going. So that's what I did today. Even though the game said, oh, you can go anywhere you want on the map, I said, I'll just do the main story. So after 2 hours of boredom, we had an hour of really good content in Final Fantasy 16. We ended up going to this like underground mines in a dungeon, fought some enemies there, some newer enemies, although admittedly a little disappointing because we're 15 hours in and we're getting bad repeat enemies already. Like, oh, it's a human with a giant hammer. Wait a minute, a giant hammer? You mean like the goblin with the giant hammer? Yeah, it's the same enemy. Like literally it's the same enemy, just a skin swap. And we're 15 hours in and they're already completely repeating enemy types and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, that sucks. And now, the gameplay, I hate to say it, the formula of the combat is starting to be revealed. There's always going to be mobs of more weak enemies, and what you do is you alternate between your elemental types and abilities to go between them and do big combos, and then all of a sudden, a big tank guy will come out, and you can't beat him because you have to stagger him with the stagger meter, and you do it 2-3 times in a loop while dodging their attacks, and then they die. And that's really it. Like, it's pretty simplistic. I'm not going to lie, at this point, it definitely feels like the combat engine is action focused and you have to concentrate to dodge and everything because it's action focused, but it's incredibly simplistic. There's not much to it. I mean, maybe there will be more coming up, but even by the end of today's stream, so there was a big plot segment, okay?
Wow, Phil. Wow, you really make me want to take time out of my day, right? And come and spend 3 hours with you to watch you play a game that you despise. And from your very words, call crappy, repetitive, boring, right? The interesting thing that I wanted to stop and point out and highlight is, of course, is Phil made $51 from this playthrough in tips. And you notice how the criticism always occurs depending on the frequency of tips. So as you guys know, I think you guys probably know where I mentioned it, support was dead the whole day. And it wasn't until Dent Lee Salou, aka OIC, came in and dropped a $50 donation that got him to the Gunner glasses, where all of a sudden, after that tip, Phil perked up. He was excited because he at least hit his tier 1 tip goal. And then, of course, that means that the game is better, it plays better. It's just another example of thousands of examples that show that Phil's criticisms and critiques of games are solely based on how much money he receives when he plays these games. That's it, nothing more.
And it lasted about an hour. It was well done. I liked the plot. There was a boss. The boss was fine. And then there was these big developments. There was another big kaiju fight and stuff like that. And I say kaiju, I mean the icons are fighting each other. The dominants are controlling them and all that. Big epic, crazy end to the stream and all of that. Got new abilities unlocked and everything by the end of the stream and all of that. I'm like, okay, but it really didn't seem like anything new happened besides plot developments, which is fine. I'm liking the plot. When it's focusing on the main plot, it's fun. But when they have you go off and have to do these menial tasks for an hour and a half, and there's all this overbearing, blabbing dialogue with the people in town, the fucking townspeople that literally have nothing to do with the plot, but you have to waste time having these giant dialogue discussions with them. It's not like, oh, okay, go over here and here's your help. And it's like, oh, gotta talk to this one, talk to that one. Oh, this one says go over here, talk to this one. Maybe you should do this, fight one enemy. Oh, do this, hand me that spoon you found on the enemy. Okay, wait, here's a stick of butter. Go bring this over to the baker. Bring it to the baker, he bakes you a cake, you eat the cake, you have to take a shit. You go find the stall, you take a shit. Oh, the stall's locked. Go talk to 3 townspeople about how to unlock the stall to take a shit. You finally take the shit, and then it's like, oh, now I can go down the next part of the game. Oops, I just wasted 50 minutes. That's what the game feels like at this point.
Ah, yes. This wouldn't be a DSP rant without any, without scat humor. He definitely needs to interject that scat humor so that, his dents can enjoy it even more, because without a poop reference or a crap reference or a toilet reference, I think Phil's worried that his dents may leave him and no longer support him. So big ups there, Phil. Big ups for interjecting scat humor where it isn't needed.
So when it has high highs of great plot and interesting combat and boss fights, it's great. But then they slog on with these filler parts that suck ass. So it's funny because I know for a fact there's some people who are criticizing the playthrough, but here's the thing. This game lost its audience a week ago. All right? I'm sorry to say it. It did. Like, the second stream I played of Final Fantasy 16, people lost interest. They were like, dude, the game is way too many cutscenes. It's boring. I have to agree. I can't not agree. The plot overall is interesting when you get to actually watch the interesting plot.
Again, like I stated a few seconds ago, he based this solely on how the stream does with tips. So if you guys remember, I reported this, and you probably know, is that the first stream I think he made $100. So he did clear the tier 1 tip goal for the premiere. The second stream he got $35. He got $35 the night stream, and of course that typically is what happens with new releases with Phil. You know, unless it's something huge like Street Fighter or something like that, what ends up happening is he gets over $100 for the first stream, the first premiere stream, and then if he decides to play it twice on the same day, the night stream's always a bomb. It always is, and that's what happened here with Final Fantasy. So that's why he's talking about how, you know, support dried up a week ago because, like I stated, he didn't get that consistency of tips that he expects for a new playthrough. You know, if he can't get about 3 weeks of good support consistently, then Phil considers the game to be an absolute failure. He does, and then that's when he starts going on rants and starts attacking the game and starts criticizing the game, just like Zelda, just like Final Fantasy, and just like a Diablo. He just finds things to nitpick, and I think it's a way to make people that want him to play the game, to make them tip, because he's kind of like, oh, I don't know about this game, I don't know if I'm going to continue playing it, and then people may feel compelled to have to tip so that Phil will continue playing it. It's these head games that Phil plays, and it's disgusting.
And do some of the combat, but the game interjects so much boredom between, it's barely passable. I mean, I'm pissed that I'm bored between these segments. I can't believe they did it like this. Seriously, like, not a Final Fantasy game that I've ever played has been like this. So it is what it is. I'm going to keep playing it. I don't hate it. But by the end of today's stream, again, a 3-hour stream, 2 hours were incredibly boring, almost nothing going on. And then the final hour was like, oh my god, turbo mode through the plot, a dungeon, new abilities, boss fights, and even by the end of the stream, there was a time skip. And now we're in a whole new act of the game, and this essentially is, I'm calling it Act 2. This is really the meat of the game. After 15 hours, we beat the intro, and now we're actually in the main part of the game. And the reason I know that, because now there's a room, and in the room they call it the Room of Mementos. And when you go in there, you notice, oh, every major plot point moving forward, you're going to receive a memento at the end of it, and it goes into the room to remind you of everything that's happened in the game. And I'm like, oh, there's like 18 of these or something, and we have one, because it was from the thing that just happened at the end of the intro, and I'm like, okay, so that makes sense. Now we're actually getting into the meat of the game, now that we have this all like underlying plot established about the dominance and the icons, and now we actually know who the big bad of the game is. That was revealed today, and stuff like that. But one of the worst pacings I've ever seen in an RPG. I don't know, people say, oh, it's 10 out of 10 game of the year. I don't know what game they're playing. Maybe they like really boring TV shows with insane amounts of filler. Like maybe they love The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and shit like that. For me, the reason I fell out of love of those shows is because they went on too long-winded and had too much filler garbage, and you just can't retain your interest anymore. That's what this game is feeling like.
Wow, almost like you, Phil. You're long-winded and you're boring, and you continue talking about the same exact thing. Why do you have to spend 11 minutes ranting and raving about this game? And it's interesting because everybody out there, for the most part, loves the game. They give it a great score. It's not perfect, but they give it a good score. They find it interesting. You are the only one out here ranting and raving about how bad this game is. You are. And the other interesting thing too is the playthrough yesterday. It all picked up, of course, right after Lisa Liu dropped her $50 donation to essentially shut Phil up, because she probably got tired of him, complaining about the game and saying, "Oh, guys, I don't know, it's, all of the nonsense that Phil likes to use to essentially make his dents pay up." So anyway, this goes on for like another minute. I really don't care. It's just so pitiful and boring of Phil. But it just amazes me. Why would he trash a game, right, that he's playing and expects people to come and enjoy the time, enjoy the game, and give him donations? It's like saying, oh, I'm selling this item, right? I'm in business. I have this widget that I sell, but then you're telling everyone how crappy the widget is, but then expect them to buy the widget. It makes no sense. But anyway, this is Phil we're talking about here. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.